Hi Siri.
Hi.
The company you manage has been part of the Norwegian salmon industry basically from its infancy. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me the story.
Yeah, the company history goes a long way back. So starting in 1906 by my great-grandfather, always representing big international players on the Norwegian market. But very quickly, what is now dsm-firmenich became our most valuable partner. And we've been working together in the animal feed industry in Norway ever since vitamins for animal nutrition was invented. So starting really to grow in the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
Not only for aqua species, but also for land-based animals.
Okay, great. And now, what does the company focus on?
So now we are still working in the whole value chain, so serving feed raw materials, feed, and also the Norwegian processing industry, dairy, other food and beverage applications, but with the selection of micronutrients.
Okay. So micronutrients in itself, especially in aquaculture, what is their importance and how has that kind of developed over time? What was the need from the beginning in salmon?
It was always, of course, when aqua feed was based on fish oil and fish meal. Fish meal is an ideal raw material because it gives you a lot of the nutrients the fish requires. But it was still, to have optimal growth, it was still necessary to add like the B complex vitamins and also vitamin E, vitamin A and D. So always being important, and of course in order to grow it quickly became very obvious that they needed to add astaxanthin as almost an essential vitamin in its own capacity. So right from the start it was necessary with the vitamin, optimizing nutrition based on really good raw materials, but still making the full feed as good as possible for the fish.
Right, you already mentioned a very important word there, astaxanthin. I think just to have a baseline, that there is a lot of misinformation out there, especially on the consumer side of things, about how salmon actually gains its color. If I just ask you, right from the bottom up, where does salmon get its pigmentation from?
I would turn it a bit around and ask, why is salmon pink to start with? Because I think that's the pink color comes from astaxanthin, which is a carotenoid. And it's very obvious as consumers that we see it's having this really appealing flesh color, key quality parameter. But it's also extremely important that it's so essential for the fish. So astaxanthin has a lot of different roles in health and performance and reproduction of the fish. And that was recognized right from the start. So when the industry started, they would use shrimp offals, to have some source of astaxanthin. But with the development of compound feed also for salmon as a species, it was necessary to have something with a higher yield of astaxanthin. And that's where DSM came in. And to take a step back, it's like nature has a lot of carotenoids. And in order to produce it, whether it's from yeast or algae or by a synthesis, you need to describe the molecule. And that was the starting point. So a very brilliant chemist in Trondheim, Professor Leon Jensen, she was able in the 70s to isolate and describe astaxanthin, which meant that it could be produced for addition to aquaculture feeds. And that's where the story from DSM started, that you had a molecule that was described, and they started producing it. And it's quite impressive, actually, when you look back here in Athens. We are celebrating 40 years of Carrefour Pink. And of course, the journey for dsm-firmenich started before that. And salmon was still a small species, of course, recognizing that it had potentials. But that the company at that time recognized the potential and actually invested in exploring it and setting up the production. I think that's quite an achievement together with the industry. Of course, the feed players were also actively stating that they would appreciate that kind of product. And in a way, the rest is history, that it became available, and within a very short time, it was the industry standard for pigmentation of salmonids.
Okay, and what was the role of Siri Johnsen in basically making that astaxanthin available?
So, of course, Norway is currently supplying 50% of the world's Atlantic salmon production, and also going 40, 50 years back. Norway has always been the pioneers in the development of the industry, and we've been, as a company, extremely fortunate to have, in a way, the recognition that we could be the feet on the ground for dsm-firmenich, engaging with the key stakeholders in Norway, meaning, of course, our main customers being the feed producers, but also with the farmers. So to get the trust we did get and still do have from dsm-firmenich in being their front line in the Norwegian market, it's really, that's the main role. So we are currently then looking after sales and project management and following up on all Norwegian aspects of the business.
So there are basically 3 steps of the astaxanthin journey, right? If we think about it, at the beginning, the salmon industry is coming about. There's the first trials in the 60s. People are figuring out we can farm this at scale. They're starting to include shrimp offals to give the fish what it needs on a nutrient level. They realize they don't have enough shrimp offals and they might not be the right quality. It's inconsistent. Then we get to the point where in Trondheim the compound gets isolated, and since then we've been working with a synthetic astaxanthin basically. And now that development is, I think, seeing a new step, because for I think about a decade or a little bit more than that, we've been able to produce natural astaxanthin from algae. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, it's really about what the salmon needs. So, of course, looking at adding astaxanthin to feed, it needs to be stable to withstand the really strong forces of extrusion, and being bioavailable and possible to utilize for the salmon. And the salmon doesn't really care about the source. It needs astaxanthin, the free astaxanthin molecule, which when it gets into the intestine and is absorbed, it's about the form, the source of astaxanthin being the free astaxanthin. So it could be from yeast, bacteria, or produced by synthesis. But the main point is that it needs to be astaxanthin available for the fish. Mm-hmm. And I still believe it's about efficiency for the industry. Fermentation, other technologies could come, like we see with several of the vitamins. So that the division is not that much whether it's produced by chemical synthesis or whether it's produced by synthesis in yeast or by bacteria. Mm-hmm. So it's much more about getting the effect for the animal as such.
Mm-hmm. Are there any key differences or any biological, bioavailability, that type of thing, between yeast or algae sources of astaxanthin versus the synthetic form?
That's a huge question. It's really complex because you could say what's influencing pigmentation of salmon. And
Take it back there if you'd like to. We have the opportunity here to open it up.
Then I would start with the fish because it's really about heritability of the ability to deposit astaxanthin, which we clearly see in different genetics between species, like rainbow trout has the ability to deposit more astaxanthin than salmon. And it's also about the role astaxanthin has in the fish. For instance, in reproduction, when in the female it goes over to the roe, and it improves, astaxanthin improves hatchability of the eggs and early survival of the fry. And also in the male, it has a role going into the skin as camouflage, but also communicating that he's ready for action. And so it's a lot of things really given on the animal. But then looking at the pigment source, it's much more, the difference is really about how do you put it into extruded feed, make it mixable, homogeneous, stable during process and storage, so that the product is actually available for the fish. And dsm-firmenich has done a lot on product development of what we call the product form. So astaxanthin into carriers that really protects it, makes it flowable, mixable, and then at the end available for the fish. So I would say rather than natural sources, synthetic sources, it's much more about the form, securing that the form that is added to the feed is actually survives and will be available for the fish.
Yeah, survives the digestive tract, basically, that the fish can assimilate.
Yeah, so double, surviving the extrusion process, and then getting to the right part of the intestine, being absorbed, transported, deposited.
There's this idea that this is all about color. But from what I understand, astaxanthin has a lot of other crucial nutritional benefits and functional benefits for the fish, and the color is almost a byproduct. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's a nice way of summarizing it, because it's really about, for the fish, astaxanthin is really a powerful antioxidant, which the fish use. We have seasonal variations, so just to give you an example, we have what we call the spring drop, which is a temporary decrease in pigmentation. When the salmon gets ready to face the higher temperatures, start eating more, it mobilizes the astaxanthin reserve. We see it when the fish is stressed, that it uses astaxanthin as an antioxidant. And looking at the environment of salmon today, there are stressors, and of course we try to remove those in farming, husbandry or management, but you can't remove it all. So there are really stressors during the production cycle in sea, and the fish mobilizes astaxanthin as an antioxidant to handle the stress. So, and then in addition to reproduction, that's really good examples that astaxanthin has vitamin-like functions, nutritional functions, really important in the salmon. And then in the end, it has the benefit of being a healthy, tasty, appealing looking protein source for us as consumers.
Talking about consumers, is there a consumer application for astaxanthin directly in supplements?
Not by dsm-firmenich, but there are some other sources like bacteria going into dietary supplements. But it's not part of the dsm-firmenich offering.
Yeah, no, but I personally think, looking at salmon, we're almost looking at a superfood. The components of the fish are amazing on macronutrient and micronutrient level. And astaxanthin as a natural compound flows into this fish, and it is absorbed and extracted also by the human body, the part that the fish yields. I heard from a company that produces it in Hawaii and from the algae form that the triathletes actually that run the Kona Ironman, they take it for the many health benefits, but it also has a sunscreen. It is a natural sunscreen because during the Kona marathon, the Ironman, you're not really able to put on that much sunblock because you're out there for hours and hours and hours. Right? They don't get completely roasted because they basically take enough astaxanthin over the months of preparation to have a natural sunscreen. And personally, I find the idea that this is somehow harmful to you because it's generally naturally metabolized in the fish crazy.
Just looking at salmon as a source for us of really good omega-3 source, terrific vitamin D source, a source of a really healthy protein with all the benefits. And it's a different field to explore dietary supplement aspects of astaxanthin, but I like the idea of labeling it as a superfood because you can, like taking fish oil, you can also have the whole protein as a base, and often you see better effect in humans by actually eating the whole protein, not just an extract of the one benefit you're looking for.
Yeah, bioavailability, right, and complexity. The question is, if I take that, does it just go straight through, or does it actually get taken up through my digestive system? And we have the same question in salmon that we there have with human beings, and we have the same question with human beings actually consuming salmon. Talking about salmon, we're looking at this point, very, very developed animal. We're looking at something that has been deeply studied. It is the most important product of aquaculture, you could say. Right now, where are we, especially from the nutrient perspective, and where do you see it going? Where do you see room for improvement? What do you think are going to be the interesting developments going forward, especially in your field of micronutrients for salmon?
I think I see that micronutrients follow the development of the industry. So the first major shift we saw was, of course, the reduction of the use of fish meal and fish oil, going more to plant-based ingredients, raising the awareness and insight and knowledge about adjusting the vitamin levels in the feed so that the salmon could get the same benefits, but not from the raw materials, but rather from inclusion of vitamins. And astaxanthin has been around for 40 years, but there are so many aspects we are still not completely understanding on how it's metabolized, how it's taken up, transported, deposited. What if we were able to improve deposition in the muscle? That would be would be really interesting fields to explore further. And also with the new technologies in fish farming, like mentioned today, that you have closed containments, you have submerged cages, which makes the environment different, and the optimal nutrition of the fish is affected by the environment, which means that we need to explore what it means for the fish, also for the micronutrient requirement of the fish. Mm-hmm. So technology changes, the ways of doing farming really influences the need for micronutrients and new insight into what levels would be optimal for the fish.
Mm-hmm. Talking about the level of insights, is there maybe potential for more granular health assessment, for instance, biomarkers versus therapeutic treatment, shifting it maybe more on the prophylactic side of understanding where the fish is on its stress level? Is astaxanthin a component that can be understood within a biomarker context?
Yeah, or being a biomarker in itself, because we do observe that if the fish is stressed, you're more likely to have a paler fillet, which means they have mobilized their astaxanthin reserve, and it can be adjusted by optimizing the level of astaxanthin given through the feed, but it's also about what other components could support astaxanthin in the fish. And sort of the basic knowledge is that vitamin C and vitamin E supports astaxanthin functions in the fish. Mm-hmm. So they are, as antioxidant vitamins, really important together. But like we see with other species, we have this tremendous technology development that you're able to observe the fish in the pen. You have control of the biomass, you can look at individuals, and also perhaps using and developing different dsm-firmenich precision services also into aqua applications.
Yes, we saw something quite fascinating downstairs actually. I think your company had a crucial role to play in the color palette. Basically, what do you call it? You have
we call it the samofan.
The samofan, exactly. And you were the one who kind of spread that in Norway, I think.
Yes.
And now we are at a new level of that.
Yes. So it's been a tool being there the whole time since the launch in 1987 with the card, and then later the samofan. And it's been really useful for the farmers to control production and monitor production cycle, but also as a communication between people selling fish and buying fish. But it has been subjective in a way, because you and I would read different, give a fish different scorings. It would be influenced by the light conditions.
You see colors differently, yeah. Everyone sees colors differently.
So now with the development of the digital samofan, we remove those aspects. So the difference between readers, the influence of light conditions, and it's really a cool tool where you just put a little diamond down on the fillet and you get a reading on your through an app on your phone.
And it's an objective reading, right? That's the big change now. It's not we're putting a color fan next to it, but we actually put a scan on it and we can say, okay, this is a hex color code.
Yeah.
And this is what we wanted, or this is not what we wanted. There's also, so I was talking to Christoph downstairs, who mans the stand, I think. And we had a quick exchange, and I thought it'd be very interesting also in the health monitoring aspect. You see where the salmon is in its coloration phase with an objective tool for the first time.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, technology is developing so quickly. I don't want to pin you on a 10-year time frame because it seems like the rate is doubling every year. But the 5-year horizon, with all these things that seem to be falling into place right now. We have the incredible lab capacities of biomarkers. We have the data processing capacity for what is now emerging AI, and the understanding of the connection of many different data points we might not have had feasibly before without paying huge amounts of money to data scientists. What does that convergence of technology mean over the next 5 years for micronutrient and for the development of salmon?
I envision that we will, much more than looking at optimal vitamin nutrition, the role of astaxanthin, a bit like in insurance. You have an insurance policy in case things happen, whether you have to treat, whether you have stress, whether you have environmental factors. I believe we will move into a situation where we will actually be able to know much more from all the data points that will be collected with the new tools already being used in fish farming, and really looking at optimizing the welfare of the fish and continue to have a really tasty, healthy, appealing product at the end.
Great. Well, I wish us all the best with that.
Thank you.
Siri, thank you very much for joining us.
Likewise.
I hope you have a few lovely days here in Athens, and see you at the next one.